Are you an overwhelmed SaaS founder ready to make the leap from leading a team to leading an organization? Join us each week as we refill your think tank with actionable tips and strategies from great business minds you know and those you don't know yet. This is SaaS Fuel with your host, 5-time entrepreneur, SaaS founder, and globetrotting adventurer, Jeff Maines.
Welcome back to the SaaS Fuel podcast, where SaaS founders compete with pitch decks entirely written in limericks. I'm your host, Jeff Maines. I help B2B SaaS founders like you scale and exit. We create capital-efficient growth, premium valuation, and ownership freedom so that you build a business you're proud of and create a life of impact that you absolutely love. There once was a SaaS deck in hand with slides that were slick and so grand. It made VCs smile for a little while till they saw the $1 trillion demand. Pitch decks from Limerick. So thank you for that idea, Tim Newsom. I love it when ideas are submitted by listeners for opening things like that. That's pretty fun. I had an amazing time at the Ascent conference this week, wrapped up yesterday. Great connections, brain dates with thought leaders, and super opportunity to interview brilliant founders about what's working in their business right now. Big weekend coming up this next weekend. School is wrapping up across the country, graduations, and Memorial Day is Monday. It's not only the unofficial start of summer, but a day to remember those who protect and defend our country in the military and first responders, and especially those who have made the ultimate sacrifice. Instead of a sponsor spot today, I want to spotlight two nonprofits that I'm a big fan of and that we support as a company. The first is Tunnel to Towers. They began out of 9/11, named after a firefighter that died in that 9/11 tower collapse. And what they do is they provide mortgage-free homes to Gold Star families and fallen first responder families with young children. It's an amazing nonprofit, amazing charity. They also build specially adapted smart homes for catastrophically injured veterans and first responders as well. And so you think about somebody in a wheelchair and some of the things that they need, special accommodations they need in houses, they build those and give them to the families. And I think that is an amazing thing. And they're fantastically rated across pretty much every metric there is for financial accountability and responsibility. It's a great organization. You can learn more and donate to them at t2t.org, and we'll link that on our site. The second is a nonprofit called Nova Ukraine. And they have absolutely had their hands full providing food, water, necessities, basic resources to the people of Ukraine. I mean, these guys are the real deal. They're in country, on the ground. They have logistical capabilities to get things where they're needed the most. And you can learn more about them and donate at Nova, N-O-V-A, novaukraine.org. Links to both of them are on our site, saasfuel.com. Whether you want to support at home and or abroad, do one, do both, whatever it is that moves you, but consider making a donation to one or both of those in honor of Memorial Day. Our founder on Tuesday was Dennis Kelly, 6 startups over the last 30 years, and is currently founder and CEO of Postalytics, a fast-growing direct mail automation SaaS. Incredibly insightful conversation, and not just about whether direct mail still works. I mean, spoiler alert, it does. It's even better than before because in light of all the digital marketing overwhelm, it's not nearly as crowded. So that is a great episode and some fantastic insights. Somebody 30 years, 6 startups, he knows a thing or two. Our expert guest last week was Ryan Rude, founder and CEO of Lake One Digital. And they team up with B2B brands to build and optimize revenue systems by developing laser-focused strategies to reach their buyers. And the key thing here is aligning what's usually fragmented, and that is sales and marketing tech stacks. So instead of everybody doing their own thing, they bring those things together. So if you missed either one of those episodes, go back and give them a listen for sure. My guest this week is Bobby Gillespie, Bobby G, brand growth consultant and author of Build Your Brand Like You Give Us. Yeah, there you go. He is the founder and principal at Propr Design, a Baltimore-based B2B brand growth agency. And both Bobby and the Propr team advise and implement strategies that help B2B brands scale through better positioning, messaging, design, web presence, and marketing overall. Bobby G is also the host of the On Brand podcast. So here you go, the original, Bobby G. Hey, Bobby, welcome to SaaS Fuel.
Thanks, Jeff. Appreciate being here.
Well, tell me a little bit about Propr and marketing and what you guys do.
Sure. So I started Propr back in 2014. It's been 8 interesting years. And what we do in a nutshell is we're a brand strategist and a creative agency. So what we really help our clients do is, with their investment in brand and website and design and campaigns, we help them get more out of it by really aligning their business goals and brand aspirations with the reputation they're desiring and ready to earn on a daily basis. So, it's really about performance and results with us, but really leveraging that creativity and the creative in general to empower our clients to get some significant results.
So tell me about brand aspiration and brand representation. What does that mean?
Sure. So, your brand is your reputation. That's how we define it, right? So it's not your logo, it's not your website, it's not your products or services. Those are an extension of your brand. Your reputation is what defines you, right? And you have to earn that every day. So it is aspirational. You have to be consistent no matter what. Everywhere from the bottom up and the top down, you have to be consistently moving in the right direction and a strategic purpose and sharing a common goal. And it is, like I said, aspirational because it requires work and commitment. But what we do to help our clients to be really excellent in that area is by just clarifying what their purpose and mission is. And when they can understand that in simple terms, then everybody understands what they're trying to accomplish, what we're doing, for whom, and it builds a lot of momentum, but also gives leadership and us as sort of an extension of our client's team, the understanding to make decisions that are best for their brand and best for their future customers. And really, that's what it's all about. That's the most important question that any leader within any organization should be able to have the clarity to answer that, but really the guts to ask that really important question.
And so at what point should leaders be thinking about building a brand? I mean, how important is that as a startup versus, later on down the road as a bigger company?
Well, that's a great question. And I'm doing a lunch and learn with a bunch of startup leaders tomorrow, and we're talking about branding with them. And, while they're often, really super smart people, they're experts in their arena, and we're experts in ours. So when is brand important? Well, before your product's on the market and before you make any revenue, you have to be thinking about what you want to be known as and known for. And that starts with the individual. So your personal brand is something that just allows you to be yourself on a daily basis and, consistently making decisions around how you're talking to people, how you're writing, how you're interacting with others, and the as well as the visual and verbal expression of your brand, what you're putting forward. You want to start establishing that early, and it's not really a complicated thing if you really focus on what truly matters to you, what personality you're trying to convey, and what's the emotional connection you want folks to really experience when they think of you and your brand. So it's something that you should be thinking about it early and often, right? To use that great cliche. But there's times where, in the business life cycle, you'll hit certain milestones where things are more important than they used to be. So we like to just, advise folks to set a high bar for their brand and try to match that bar on a daily basis. But eventually, good enough will no longer be good enough. And you'll sense that, right? Like our website doesn't cut it anymore, or our identity doesn't cut it, or our messaging doesn't say the right thing. And, so you sense that in your gut. That's usually the time where you're like, okay, what we had before was fine. It helped us get to where we are today, but now it's holding us back. And when you're sensing that it's holding you back, you're like, oh, well, we need to increase sales, or we need to get more leads, or we need to get more, more downloads, or, schedule more demos. It's like, well, what's preventing that from happening? And oftentimes, I want to kind of advise your listeners here is don't try to solve that problem in-house. Certainly look at it and say, okay, identify the pain you're experiencing and list out that pain. And those are the symptoms, right? So then you go to a consultant or advisor who helps brand, like us, who helps brands kind of break through that ceiling and get to the next level. Say, here's all the stuff we're experiencing that's holding our brand back from the growth that we know is there. And it's like, okay, just like a doctor or an attorney, they'll take those conditions and we'll understand them because they're common patterns that we see all the time. And we'll say, okay, now's the time to clarify your messaging, or now's the time to give your salespeople a really polished pitch deck, or to have a video demo, or whatever it may be, to address not those symptoms, but the cause. Because everything needs to be progressively moving forward, right? So I just wrote an article today about prioritizing your business goals to reach growth no matter what the market's bearing, right? No matter what budgets are. And it's really like, okay, like what do we need to get some return on this investment? What do we need right now to make something happen that we're continuing to move forward? And oftentimes, as from a startup up to like larger companies, you're in-house, you're this close to stuff that you don't really truly see it for what it is. So having that outsider perspective to come in and saying like, okay, I understand, here's where you need to focus your energy now to get the results you're looking for. And that's like a kind of rinse and repeat cycle. Like once you address those initial pain points, right? What's waiting behind that? More pain. So, you want to make that initial pain go away and just keep moving forward, right? The next pain comes up, you handle that. The next pain comes up, you handle that. And that's moving your brand forward in a methodical, wise way that you're really maximizing what resources and money you have to build your brand and constantly getting outcomes and results that are positive.
That makes a lot of sense. So as companies are really looking at the economy now and thinking about, what do they want to do in marketing? We've seen budgets be reduced and companies pull back from marketing where, in my mind, they should be pushing forward. What's your take on that?
Well, number one, the cost of not marketing is greater than the investment in good marketing. So I'll spit out a lot of words and terms that are kind of insider and stop me if you need me to clarify it for more accessible terms. But it's brand equity, right? It's top of mind. It's how familiar people are with your brand. So what happens when you stop marketing? Well, then you become less visible to your customer. And what happens in that space? Well, your brand equity diminishes. And if your competitors are vying for that same attention from the same customers, and they're continuing to invest in marketing and being just in front of the customer, you don't have to have something that's really a high ticket campaign. You just need to remind them that you're still there. You're still working on great stuff. You still can provide them value before a transaction. But if you stop or even you taper, you're going to lose that equity and someone's going to be seeking it out. So the problem is that someone who's more daring and fearless with their marketing, they're going to take your brand equity. And what's going to happen to your brand is not only when you're ready to go back to marketing, you're not going to start at the same level you were at before. You have, who knows how much you have to claw back before you get to the level you were at pre-cutbacks. And then you have to go even further to get back to equity from that other customer or that other competitor, right? So when COVID originally hit in 2020, we looked at it as a recession because there's really no data on how to navigate a business through a global pandemic because,
Right.
It was 2000 or 1920 was a long time ago, and things were very different then. The last time it happened at that scale. So we looked at it as a recession, and there's a cliche that goes around that says, when times are good, you should advertise. When times are bad, you must advertise. And I'm a constant contrarian, and I don't think that's quite accurate. It's advertising the right way. And just throwing gimmicks and hacks and different things out there isn't really going to improve your situation either way. It's going to actually cost you money. And it might be doing more harm than good. So what we want folks to do is say, like, okay, who's our target audience? What value can we provide them? And how can we operationalize our branding and marketing to where it's performing for us? So a lot of folks have gone through a branding exercise with an agency. And what we've seen through not only since I started Propr, but the 22 years I've been in the game, is that there's always a gap between, okay, here's your strategy and here's the assets we create. And then it's the implementation side. How do we leverage this stuff? What do we do with it? And, in-house marketing leaders are there kind of pulling all the strings and managing resources and people and time and things like that. Well, there's still, for better or worse, in our modern times, marketing leadership is also responsible for growth, for revenue, even though we're not really always handling the transaction part, the conversation with the customer. That's somebody else, but we're still accountable for that. So by operationalizing your marketing and branding, it's really bridging the gap between creating all these amazing assets to help us earn the reputation both visually and through language that we desire. But it's being able to put it in practical terms that in-house teams can empower, a young marketer, an intern, an inexpensive freelancer, and make you look like a rock star because you have the tools and confidence and assets you need to be self-sufficient. So that is something that, all these brands out there should be considering. How do we do more with less? Because that's the honest reality of it. It's like, well, let's make sure where we're spending money to invest in growth, even during a downturn. We know that we have customers out there. We know we have a product that's going to bring them a lot of value. We know that they have the budgets for it. But how do we do more where our funding's been cut or, with restructuring or whatever in-house, like we don't have all the tools and assets we had during more of a boom time? Well, it's like, let's make sure that we got the stuff to be able to run this ourselves with or without an outside agency. And, it's really, how is this built to perform is the question that, every in-house marketing person should be asking their creative, consultants or agencies, like, how is this going to perform for us? And providing just like a suite of logos and beautiful sort of messaging, what's the outcome we can expect from this? How do we use this stuff to be able to get the outcomes we're seeking? And if they can't answer that question, well, that's an indicator. But they should be asking, how are you going to use it? What's your plan of action with this stuff? They should be asking those questions up front so that they're delivering the value you actually need without them.
So what is good marketing? You said that a couple of times. I mean, you want good marketing, good advertising. Is that really focused around brand building? Is it direct call to action? What is it that makes a good campaign?
Oh, wow. A good marketing and good campaign are two different things. They're related, though. So Seth Godin, we all know Seth as a marketing, big brain marketing guy, lots of books. I don't always agree with him on everything, but I do agree with him on I think, and this is marketing. He says everything is marketing. And I'm looking at the book on my desk. Everything is marketing. And I agree with him on that because everything sends a message. Everything you do, you say, you push out there, all your digital channels, your software, the interfaces, it's all sending a message. How that message is received and how it makes people feel is your brand. So you think about it that way, it just makes it simple. Well, we want it to be authentic. We want it to be real. There's been lots of studies over the past 8 years around brand and purpose. So brand purpose is not necessarily, doesn't have to be like Patagonia where you have, this almighty purpose of saving the world. Like it shouldn't be destroying the world, but it doesn't have to be that noble. Your purpose could just be, we want to improve our customers' outcomes, save them time, save them money, reduce frustration, get more out of less, self-sufficiency, empowerment, whatever that may be. Write that down, right? And that's the message you want to be sending with everything you're doing because everything is marketing. So when you can simplify and clarify the vision and purpose of your company, and that has to come from the top down because the leader of your organization should be a visionary person. So what's the vision of your company? And that needs to be in very succinct, very direct language. It doesn't have to be in marketing speak or flowery. It just has to be understood and it has to be real. That way you're hiring and you're managing and you're producing and you're nurturing around the vision of your company. And you have to also kind of couple that with your aspirations of the company, right? We want to be acquired. We want to acquire. We want to grow to 100 million from 50 million. We want to disrupt, NetSuite or QuickBooks, right? We want to do something huge, right? It's like, okay, that's our North Star. That's what we're working towards. But when you think about how to message that and how that's more of your internal mission. But when you're thinking about what makes good marketing, in our opinion, and our client's opinion, is that it's authentic. It's real. Instead of going with like cute, flowery, slogans that don't say anything to anybody, you're hurting your business. And don't look towards the mega brands as the example of how to do it, because they're doing it from a mega brand perspective, not from where most businesses lie. So meaning that don't look to Apple on how to structure your brand or your brand architecture, how to name your products. Don't do that because you don't have the resources of Apple, right? Apple has the resources of essentially the sun. It's infinite. But we're all dealing with much less power, much less energy. So we have to laser focus our resources, right? We can't broadcast them. We got to focus them. So how do we get an impact out of something focusing? Well, focus on your customers, your users, what's important to them. And then get your message in front of not just the users, but the champions and the decision makers, and cater your message to them from their point of view. So the users are the people who are going to be using your product, right? And if there's a better way that's going to save them time and frustration, they're going to be into it, right? The champions are the ones who want better outcomes. They're probably in the middle somewhere. They want better outcomes. They know the frustrations of the users. They know that this can go away. They know that there's better things out there, but they're stuck in some red tape. And then the decision maker could be the champion as well, but they're usually like, should we do this? You tell me why, and then I agree to make the investment. So we want to give the tools and information to the users to go back and influence the champions. And the champions, we want to give the tools and confidence to go and lobby up to the decision maker and to get them to agree to next steps, right? Release the funds, do a demo, talk to somebody, have somebody in, whatever it may be, right? So you're thinking about those three customers and map that out and say, like, okay, what's important to the user? Who's influencing the user? What channels is the user on? What are they thinking? What are they saying? What are their pains? How do they measure success? What are their gains? And go through each one and identify them, and don't do the whole persona thing. That's a little bit of dogma, but like define that person, right? Like, oh, most of the decision makers are, 50 to 60-year-old men and women, educated, put down stuff that's relevant, but then map it out to say, like, are they on TikTok? Are they on Facebook? Do we really want to be advertising on Twitter with all the Twitter madness, right? Does that make sense for our brand? Because our brand is our reputation. So what message is it sending for us advertising on Twitter with all the Musk madness? Like, do we really want to be associated with that? Will that alienate our customers? Will that alienate our team? So think about all these things, but really simplify it, right? What do we do for whom, and how can we provide value and results for them without requiring them to give much skin, other than when they're ready to self-identify and take the next step? Chances are they've already made a decision. So your business dev and salespeople are going to see that the outcomes from good marketing, because you're authentic, you're direct, you're messaging to the right people, the right thing in the right place. So when people do self-identify and fill out a form or contact you, whatever that conversion may be, you want to give 3 conversions, by the way. No skin, right? Just give them something, this for that, and then buy now, right? Those are the 3 conversions we want to consider all times. But once you're setting things up where you're being authentic, you're speaking to your purpose is relatable to your customer, you're standing by what your promise is, you're consistent across every touch point, then your business dev and sales people are going to have a lot better conversations, because people are going to be pretty close to ready to buy at that point, because they know what's up. They know they find you likable and relatable by your purpose. And that's what the research is showing us, that it's like 92% of consumers, and it breaks down from the younger generations, and it goes, kind of goes downwards as you go higher up to boomers. They want to, but it's all over 50%. But if we're getting a 92% of consumers want to engage with brands that share a purpose. And like I said, it doesn't have to be, saving the rainforest, but it has to be a purpose that is beyond making as much money as possible.
So how do you know what purpose is going to resonate with your ideal clients? Or you talked about brand personality, and there is definitely a difference. How do you know what kind of personality will resonate with them? Because, you look at a company like Patagonia is different than Apple, different than Google, different than Harley Davidson, different than, so many
Tiffany.
others, Nike. Right. Yeah.
I mean, I like
how do you know what
Harley
fits?
Davidson, right? Like, that's so different. I wrote an article, maybe it was last year or the year before. I said, is your brand Hulk Hogan or Harrison Ford? And if it's neither, then who? And that's how we help our clients identify their brand personality. And it's not what's going to resonate with your customers. It's what's authentic.
I love
what's
that.
real to us, right? So like that makes it easy, because if your brand personality happens to be Hulk Hogan, but it's not real, it requires so much effort and resources to push a false narrative. Again, we don't have the resources of the sun. We have the resources of a laser. So just keep it real. And when you're keeping it real, it's easy to be yourself. And here's the benefit of being yourself. Naval Ravikant said, of many things he said, when you are your authentic self, you have no competition because no one can compete with you on being you. And that's the best because it's so true. And I'm a testament to my entire life, growing up in West Philly and being a businessman. It wasn't supposed to be this way, but I am myself, and I'm not deterred by outside influences or growth hacks and gimmicks that promise things that are unattainable or unsustainable. So to define your brand purpose, it's another exercise. It's pretty fun. Just close your eyes and think about what would motivate you to go outside and fight. What would you fight for? What would you fight against? And that's coming from your core, your gut, right? Your mind is going to play tricks on you, but your gut's going to tell you the truth. So you want to listen to that. And like some of it, when I think about it, it's like, what would I and just, figuratively speaking, that, we don't want people to go out and fist fight over creating a culture of excellence, but depends. Well, I guess it depends. But it's like, what are you so enthusiastic and passionate about that makes you do this every day? That makes your best people excel in their lane, right? There's something shared there. And, sometimes it's just respect or autonomy, fairness, outcomes. Like, what are those things that you feel you're like, I would never stand for that. I would never let someone, do that to my people or my company. Or I don't understand how other companies don't act this way. And when I think about my entrepreneurial journey, that's what got me going. Was that like, why is every agency so transactional with the customer and the team? Can it be more relationship based? Like, sure, we're in business to make money and be successful. We're also in business to make a difference. What is that difference we're trying to make?
Right.
And how can we not sell our soul or compromise our ethics and values to accomplish that? And that's your purpose in there. Your purpose is like what you truly, I don't know if it's not safe or parental, what you truly give an SHIT about. Like what you really care about, where you're like, non-negotiable. And then you put, whatever those words are, but probably not the right words, right? Like integrity. Like we roll our eyes at brands that say, our core values are integrity and security. Those aren't your core values. Those are just buzzwords. Pick up your thesaurus, right? And look up the words integrity or whatever it is, and put it in your tone of voice. That makes it real. That makes it yours. That makes it, even though it's saying the same thing as other brands and other cultures inside other businesses, it's in your words. That makes it yours. And back to Naval Ravikant, no one can compete with you being you. So when you think about like so our purpose is like, what we'll fight for or fight against. And your personality is like, okay, what famous person, fiction, real, dead or alive, can we look to as a personification of our brand? And that helps you embody it, helps you feel it, right? Like if it was Bill Murray, right? Because you imagine Bill Murray reading your marketing. Or, Samuel L. Jackson, I always like to use because he's, lots of colorful language. Is that the personification of your brand? If not, like, then who is it, right? Like, then that gives everybody the common shared ideas about like, this is how this brand talks to people. Right. And this is how our messaging and our identity and our design, the aesthetic looks, because this is the personification. And think about how empowering that is, right? When you go from no parameters around what's right and appropriate for your brand, then you have an infinite number of potential solutions to all these challenges. Too many. When you hire someone to help with your creative, your strategy, your messaging, your website, without those parameters, what they end up doing is placating, making somebody happy. And are making a CMO happy or a CEO happy. But is that what's best for the brand and the future customer? No.
Right.
So you got to put those parameters in place. So creativity without parameters is just daydreaming and hoping. But creativity with those parameters in place enables innovation. And isn't that what all we want? We want to be innovative. We want to be different. We want to be unique. And we want to be not just memorable, but likable. And it all stems from just doing it in an authentic way.
I think that's really important. And there's no one right way to do it. It's not Hulk Hogan or Harrison Ford is the right way. It's the authentic you. Both of them work, but they attract a completely different audience. And I think that's really interesting, is figuring out who you are and being fully you, fully expressed, and then attracting the people that resonates with, instead of trying to build something that you think is going to attract the right kind of person. Because you're right, that's exhausting.
Right. It's gimmicky, and it really sucks up your resources. And not only that, this is where I want to put to quote my dad, the fear of God in you, is that it leads to what we call the poor positioning quagmire. So if you're just trying to position, doing everything based on what you think your customer wants, you're going to end up making decisions that are not in your best interest and taking on clients and customers that aren't right. And then the downward spiral begins. You have bad customers, bad clients. You have no reviews, no testimonials, no case studies. So what are you marketing? Gimmicks, which is, again, pulling you down. It becomes a race to the bottom. So then how do you differentiate? Well, you don't, because you commoditize yourself. You're marketing your features and ingredients and technology. You're not marketing your purpose and the value you bring to the customer. So you start going further down. And then eventually someone's going to say, marketing isn't worth it because we're shrinking. We're dying over here because you're not positioned properly. You're not messaging the right things to the right people in the right place. You're not giving them those 3 tiers of call to action so they can self-identify and take the next step. Right? We want our customers to be informed and want them to make that decision emotionally and mentally that, hey, you know what? These guys can solve our problem. And then take the next step. That's what you want to happen before you talk to anybody. Then it's just a conversation around like, yeah, this is the right fit for you guys, or it's not the right fit for you guys. So avoid that poor positioning quagmire, which is a lot of the reasons that companies go out of business, that the entrepreneurial adventure is failed. It's because there's short-sighted decisions made for growth hack purposes that are unsustainable, that aren't what's best for the brand and our future customers. They're just best for whatever. Now, one caveat, business ain't easy, right? So sometimes you got to do what you got to do and do that, right? As long as you're not hurting anybody. And most importantly, as long as you're still focused on the vision and the goals of the future, that you're looking forward. And that's the most important part of that.
Yeah, I think that a lot of people really kind of sit in that middle. And I think that the poor positioning quagmire is a great example of that. So, I mean, you want your marketing to attract the right people and repel the wrong ones. Yeah. But I think there's a lot of entrepreneurial fear around that of, well, what if I repel too many and then I don't sell to anybody? And so they end up in the middle. They don't take a stand for anything and they don't attract anybody.
Yeah. I mean, just be brave, right? Be brave. Take some guts to be successful, especially in, an unstable market. We're getting conflicting data and news bites constantly. But one thing's for certain, that people are holding on to their money right now. because of that uncertainty. So you just got to be brave. But even more so is like, take chances, take risk. The only, I'm one of those guys that, I kind of grew up and never imagined I would own a business. But in hindsight, it's kind of evident that I was going to find myself in this predicament. But I believe, and this is what I say to everybody who's considering, or they should consider taking the entrepreneurial plunge, is that the only unsuccessful entrepreneur is the one who doesn't take that step.
It's true.
So you're already successful. Just keep that guts going, because a lot of people are afraid to take that first step. You're not. You've done it. Keep going. Continue to be brave. Continue to be the leader that your company really needs and your industry is seeking.
So what are the mistakes that founders or CEOs make in brand building or in marketing?
The first thing that came to my mind is dogma. So just about every client. So unquestionable ideas. So, for example, just about every client we've had in the tech space has said they have their core values. They have their brand pillars, right? And I say, okay, what are they? And they fumble around them, or they have 11 of them. So you can't care that much about 11 things. And how do you expect your people to make decisions based on these values?
They'll never remember 11.
Who's going to remember 11, right? And how are 11 words actionable?
Right.
You need like 3.
Yep.
Maybe 4. 3.5 is good. So, just being open-minded, important stuff is going to, our curiosity is the reason that we thought there was a better way to do something. And for some reason, our society kind of says play and curiosity is kind of childish. Oh, shame on us. That's just terrible, right? Because that's how we learn. And, picking up patterns and seeing those patterns over and over. That's how we measure intelligence. And what we find to be boring and obvious, our customers find to be extremely compelling and brilliant. So, remain curious, keep an open mind, resist dogma. I'm sure a lot of your listeners know the word Kaizen, in software development, and we apply it to just a philosophy in life. It means constant improvement. How can we improve ourselves, our team, our operations? And that doesn't mean that we wreck it constantly. Just to have an open mind. Is there a better way to do this? When we work with contractors all the time, because we don't want a huge agency, we want A players that we bring in as we need them. And I insist, tell me if you know something better here. What can you contribute to the success of this project? What ideas do you have? And if they're not offering that, we're not working with them more than once or twice, because we want people who are thinking and contributing to the conversation. So that's a top-down thing. The leader has to kind of set that example. What other things do they do? They lose sight. Lincoln was big with this. He would go and hang out with the troops. He had an open door policy at the White House where people were allowed to. Was he in the White House? Wherever the president lived at that time, I'm pretty sure it was the White House.
Yes. Yes.
I'm not a historian. I love history though, but I'm not a historian. Design history, I might know some facts. But he had an open door policy where people could walk up and talk to him, right? So he had that connection between the people that are doing the work, the people that are selling the work, and the people that are using the work, right? So having that feedback loop is critical to make sure that we don't lose touch with what we're building. And if there was another one, focus on what matters most. Coming out of COVID, another thing with like going remote and then pulling everyone back to the office, is that really what needs to happen? we work from 9 to 5, Monday to Friday. Is that really what we need to do? Or is that just kind of the way it's always standard operations, right? That the whole reason we did that was because of factories. Well, factories don't really exist anymore, at least in this country. So why do we maintain the factory work schedule? Like all these things, question all these things that other people have done and focus on what really matters, the outcomes, the value, the fulfillment, the engagement, right? For your people, your customers, all your stuff, your vendors. Like all those people need to be like, oh yeah, because you think about it, right? If there's no reason to pull your team back into work and it disrupts their lives and they're not happy, they're going to talk about it.
Right.
So that's part of your marketing because they're sending that message. And you think about the best marketing. The best marketing is a recommendation or a referral because someone's going to say, hey, Jeff, you're looking for a coffee company to brew your own at home? Well, don't go with them. They suck. No questions asked. And you're going to say, oh, yeah. Someone's going to be like, oh, Jeff, have you heard of this coffee brand? Oh, yeah, I heard they suck. Oh, really?
Yep.
So that's how we talk and communicate in informal settings. That's how people are going to talk and communicate about your brand. So if you focus on what really matters, none of this extra stuff, this vain ego stuff, none of this perceived, we have the big office, so that means we're great. Like none of that is necessarily important. If it's providing like quality and fulfillment, great. If it's, someone's paying for it, by the way, wouldn't you rather have that in your paycheck? But what we really want to do is earn the right reputation every day. So when that comes up, I say, yeah, their coffee's great. It doesn't taste like burnt water. They have lots of varieties. They're in the neighborhood. They get their stuff from, sourced properly. They treat their employees well. They're always so nice. Like that's all it takes for someone to say like, oh, okay. And then they're going, that's all. I mean, that's the influence your brand has on your success. When people are talking about your brand in a positive light and they're making recommendations like, oh, I was where you were. Try this solution. Or hell no, don't go there. Like very different things, right? So like focus on what matters most. And you'll have more positive outcomes. You'll have more, recommendations and reviews. And it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy where you just do good. You're good at business. You're a good human being. You're a good citizen. And it will just reciprocate.
That's great advice. So tell me about the book, Build Your Brand.
Let's see what it looks like. So I am from Philly, but the orange and black is not necessarily a Flyers homage, but hey, why not? The designers went in that direction and I liked it. So
that's great.
Why did I write this book is a common question. There's a couple reasons. One, it is our duty to give back. So all the information, all the ideas, all the accomplishments of today are the result of so many others that came before us. Right? We're not having self-driving cars and beautiful MacBook Pros on our desk, and that wasn't the people who designed and built those things. That's hundreds of thousands of years of humans telling stories and sharing information with one another. So I felt compelled to contribute to the conversation, and I felt like shame on me if I went to the grave with all this wisdom and knowledge. The jury's still out, but information I've gathered and learned over the years, like I want to contribute to the conversation further. Two, I want to make my mom and my family proud. And I got a chip on my shoulder. So, grew up in West Philly, people are like, oh, Bobby Gillespie didn't write no book. Yes, I did. And I'm writing a second one.
That's awesome.
But I want to lead by example. And that's really important to me. Meat Puppet song covered by Nirvana, and the one lyric goes, "Who needs action when you got words?" And that's mocking. That's mocking so many people who are just talking. I want to lead by example, and I want to inspire other people to do things that they never thought was possible, and to lead by example. But also, there's a better way to do business. There's a better way to brand and market your company. And the gimmicks are tired. The Super Bowl is coming up this week. Go Eagles. And, the Super Bowl commercials, everybody gets hyped for them. I get nauseated by them because of the platitudes and the BS. And
there's no substance.
There's nothing to it, right? And that is the example we're given as business owners as what to do. It's nonsense, right? Like, just be what your customers are looking for. Follow your vision. You see that there's a gap or there's a void in service or product, and you want to fill that. And you want to fill that why. And why does your customer need a better way to do what they're trying to accomplish? Like, clarify that and say that. And, like the Toyota-thon and, buying Lexuses for Christmas, like, we're better than that. And I cringe at my colleagues who that's the advertising world that they're doing that. Avoid that. You'll be better off in the long run. Your money is best spent elsewhere. Right. And, and you'll feel better about it. You'll create a brand that your employees, your customers, their family, their friends, they'll be thrilled to be a part of. And isn't that a much better legacy to have versus saying that, we ran some campaigns during the Super Bowl? Like, that's not necessarily going to move the needle. Well, we'll move the needle the wrong way. But
very well
moving the needle the right way is creating a brand that people are excited to be a part of.
That's great advice. Where can people find out more about you, about the book, and about Propr online?
So me, if you dare, I'm very active on LinkedIn. And my handle is that Bobby G, ThatBobbyG. I'm pretty active. Just let me know where you heard, on Jeff's show, and I'd love to connect. You can learn more about Propr at propragency.com, and Propr spelled a little bit differently. It's PROPR, no E. It's propragency.com. And the book, currently the book is for sale on the evil monolith Amazon. You got to, sometimes you can't control the game. You just can control how you play it. So it's build your brand like you give it SHIT. The I in SHIT is an exclamation point because Amazon is weird about that. And you can buy hardcover, softcover, or Kindle. The ebook will be out later in 2023.
Excellent. And we'll make sure and link all of those in the show notes. And Bobby, it's a great conversation. Really enjoy having you on SaaS Fuel.
Thank you, Jeff. I appreciate it.
Thanks again, Bobby, for coming on the show and sharing your strategies and insights that are working today. That's awesome. You can learn more about Bobby at proprdesign.com. And that's Propr, P-O-P-R, without the E. And as always, all links, highlights, resources, full show notes are available at saasfuel.com, including the link to Propr Design, as well as Tunnel to Towers, T2T.org, and Nova Ukraine, novaukraine.org. If you're enjoying the show and getting value, hit that subscribe button or follow us on social. Everyone who subscribes this week gets a custom SaaS limerick just for you or your company. There once was a SaaS founder named Moses who built his AI with rubber hoses. The seed round he got, without a second thought, left us bootstrappers holding our noses. All right. Well, you guys enjoy a long weekend, honor the heroes, and kick off summer well. And then join us next Tuesday for a conversation with Melissa Kwan. She is the co-founder and CEO of eWebinar, an automated webinar solution that combines pre-recorded video with real-time interactions and live chat to deliver an engaging experience. You think you know webinars? Think again. And next Thursday, my guest is Sam Baker, principal at Scale Venture Partners. They are a scale-up studio that invests in SaaS and tech companies building intelligent software that works for the user. Sam believes that cognitive apps are the future. Want to know why? We'll come back next week, and he will tell you all about it. So I will see you next time. Honor our heroes, honor the fallen, and as always, enjoy the journey.
Thanks for listening to SaaS Fuel. Full show notes for each episode, which includes a summary, key takeaways, quotes, and any resources mentioned, are available at saasfuel.com. Be sure to follow and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. And if you're enjoying the content and getting value from these episodes, please leave us a rating and review at ratethispodcast.com/SaaSfuel. We'll be sure to read these out on future episodes.